On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring some of Atlanta, Georgia's most inspiring homes, where Southern charm meets modern style and personal stories come to life. First, we'll step inside a beautiful Tudor-style cottage bursting with wallpapers and a wonderful collection of art. Next, we'll visit a charming home that was beautifully updated with classic and traditional pieces that pack a bold punch. Then we'll step inside a mid-century modern home decorated with eclectic and whimsy finishes. Finally, we'll tour a stunning new Regency-inspired home where old and new elements are seamlessly blended together in true Southern fashion. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Greg. Welcome to my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm so glad you're here. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Greg Irby. We are in my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I live here with my husband, Mike, and then our two children. Our son, Sims, is a senior in college, and our daughter is a junior in college. So they kind of mysteriously come and go when they please. And then we live here with our dog, Jean-Pierre, we call JP, a French bulldog, and our cat, Max. We bought this house in January of 2020. We were not planning on moving. In fact, we were in the middle of a third renovation in our family home that we loved, and most of all, we loved our family neighborhood, just surrounded by lots of close family friends, and it was just a great spot. But Mike and I would often walk by this house. He grew up down the street, and we always said if this house ever came on the market, we would buy it. It's a 1930s English cottage Tudor, and I always loved the exterior of it. And one Friday afternoon, late afternoon, I was driving by and saw the real estate agent putting the sign out front. And I thought, oh my gosh. And so I called my friend Molly Beery, who sells real estate in Atlanta, and said, Molly, I have to see this house, but we are not moving. So she brought me over on that Saturday morning first thing, and we put an offer on it that afternoon. I love the outside of the house. When I walked in, I realized that it was going to be a huge renovation project, but it just had great bones, and I love the size of it. Our kids, we were just about to be empty nesters, and I love that it was downsizing some, and just the cottage feel of it. All the rooms were smaller in proportion, but I knew that I could do every inch of the house and not feel overwhelmed. So I really just fell in love with it, and it was in pretty bad shape when I walked in that Saturday morning. So one of my favorite things in all homes are large foyers, but I did not get that in this home. But I had this very small entry, but I wanted to make sure I really made it fun and dramatic. So I started with this grass cloth wallpaper, which I love, by Ozar Brie, and it just had great texture and just a great punch. And I found this mirror at the flea markets in Paris and was so happy that it worked here. And then I got this Rococo console, and it had a yellowed marble top, and I found this fun marble top to replace it with. And this is a grandmother's lamp. We just put a new lampshade on it. A wedding gift. These are wedding gifts as well. And then art from the gallery by Sarah Comelli. So I love just mixing the old with the new. with this entry being so small, I wanted when people to come in for them to not feel so closed in. So I decided to make this space here, hoping it to be a part of the entry. And this is one of my favorite paintings by Lynn Sanders, a 48 by 60, which I just think works so well in this room. And I found these Biedermeier chairs, which I fell in love with, and they were in great shape. And I just added this C.W. Stockwell animal print to them. And then you'll see in my home, I have a few different areas where I have the dolphin motif, which I love, this dolphin table. And then just things, this was my grandmother's. I remember exactly where it was in her home in Charlotte. And in the bookshelves, it shows a lot of the things that I really love, mixing the old with the new. This is a favorite. These are early 1800 Chinese porcelains from my husband's grandparents. She collected them from H. Moog, which was in Atlanta. It was a mainstay in Atlanta for years. Mixed with, these were my great-grandmother's, and wedding gift. The horses I have on both sides of the bookshelves. They were from an antique shop in Rhode Island where my daughter went to school, and I loved the town. On her graduation weekend, I knew I wanted to get something to remember it by. But again, more things. This is the Chinese porcelain. You'll see that I love anything chinoiserie, and we're just lucky that we were able to receive those from grandparents. I loved mixing the old with the new. So, early 1800 with a collage painting by Erin McIntosh, who's a gallery artist. I've represented her for over 20 years. And then these tortoise handles by Nest Collection, who are here in Atlanta. I think those just add a fun touch to the bookshelves. And all of these cloisonne boxes were collected by a grandparent, so we have those scattered throughout. And some of them you even can open up and see, old buttons that were that she used, or it's kind of neat. I grew up in South Carolina, and my mother was an artist, and my father was an attorney, and just always was surrounded by watching my mother create. But I was more business-minded, like my father. I got my business degree in marketing undergrad, and then went and got my MBA. And when I first started out in Atlanta, I would go around and try to start my own art collection, and I couldn't even afford the little tiny, 8 by 10 paintings. So I was like, God, there's got to be a way to find artists that I can afford. So I started representing emerging artists, and I'd have shows in my home. And then I decided to take the show on the road, and I'd go to other southeastern cities where my friends lived, and I'd have shows in their homes. And it really grew from there. And I opened up a gallery in 2006, 2007 in Atlanta, and it was open just 2 days a week because my children were young, and I would race home and get home before the school bus arrived, and it just kind of grew with my family, with my life. And now we are at Peachtree Battle Shopping Center, Atlanta, Georgia, just down the street, and we represent about 45 artists from all over the country, a couple of international artists, and we just have a full team, and we're selling art all over the country, and it's been tons of fun. It's been a fun, long, interesting journey. The living room, I decided to start with the paint color, and I fell in love with this Farrow & Ball Pen Noir paint, which is kind of a lavender gray in the estate emulsion, and I painted everything in that: ceiling, trim, walls. So after I chose the Pen Noir color, I decided on two things simultaneously. This painting by Amy Wright, who's an Australian artist who we represent. I loved all her colors and just the surreal genre of the painting. It just adds so much depth to this room, and then I could use all my collected chinoiserie to surround the painting. You'll see that I have probably up to 10 pairs of food dogs in my home. I love food dogs. And the next thing I did is I chose this ferric mason fabric as maybe, my lead fabric in this room. And I've known Alex Mason, who's the founder and designer of Ferric Mason, for years, as I used to represent her as an artist when she painted full time. So it's so fun to have her work here. And a lot of these fabric designers I know personally, which is really neat. It's kind of like having, artists paintings in my home. When I know the artists, I love to know the designers who design their fabrics. Here, just mixing old with new, an old painting that came from great-grandparents with a new painting. And I always just try to find spots for paintings wherever I can, above side tables. And I love this hand-painted side tables that I bought at an antique shop here in Atlanta. And then in this room, what we did is I needed more space in this room, or more seating in this room. So I had this bench built in, and with this Marika Meyer fabric, which I just love. And then it's great because I have great storage under here, which I need in this home. And these are great little shin toasters by Coley Home that are just great to pull up, and we've used these lots. So it makes for a good space for entertaining, and we can fit a lot of people in here when we're all together. I love color, art, patterns, and mixing it all up. So it's really just all the things that I really love. And we were lucky that our grandparents left us a lot of their items. So I've sprinkled that around the house, and it's really just everything I love, surrounded by it all. I don't know exactly how I would define my personal style. I just love what I love. And I'm not worried about making it all work together. I do know that I love art. And I love wallpaper, and I love color, and those are kind of the main three things that inspire me, and I usually start there and just see where it takes me. Each room I did by really thinking about the kind of the feeling I wanted to have when I was in that room. And in here, we only come in here like in the evening, sometimes like on the weekend, and it's just fun to kind of come in here and have a drink with another couple or just by ourselves. Just a totally different, dramatic room. And this gives you a break. So I'll have like a room that's real peaceful, then one that's dramatic, that's real peaceful, just to kind of have a rest, and just whatever your mood is, you go into that room. And again, that's one of the reasons I love this house, because the rooms are small, and it is, choppy in the way that homes used to be. So I love that, to be able to create different feelings in each room, but they all show my personality, just that I do love color and layering and chinoiserie and art, wallpaper that you'll see throughout every room in the home. And I started with the wallpaper in here, and again, this is by Alex Mason of Ferric Mason. The day she created or released this wallpaper, I fell in love with it, knew I had to have it. And so I use this lacquer Benjamin Moore steamed spinach in here that works really well with the wallpaper. I tried to make sure that all my shades in my home were different custom fabric to make them more interesting. So I love these that were done. And then the sofa is a sleeper sofa, because we lost bedrooms coming to this house, and we need as many beds as we can get. So it is nice that we can pull this out and shut the doors in this room and move this. And these are the most comfortable suede chairs from Moore & Giles. And I wanted overstuffed chairs, club chairs, but every one that I looked at were so heavy, and I need to be able to move them easily. And these are really light, so that's been wonderful. And this is an outdoor porch that we are about to turn into a bedroom, because we need another bedroom. So we're already outgrowing our home with our kids coming home lots and bringing their friends. And in here, this is a portrait of my mother, which I love. And I love kind of mixing that in the room. There's so many colors in this room, and this wallpaper everywhere, and you see them all in this Missoni rug that has a little bit of everything in it. I have so much art that I do love that I want to hang it when I possibly can, so I always try to find fun spots for it. So, I have them above the window, these figures above the window, the door on both sides. down here, but it just works well in this space, I think. So in here I used this high gloss Benjamin Morris Claret, which I just love this color. And I had this old wooden table that I just ended up just painting that the same color. And it works great with the Skylar Samperton fabric for my window treatments. Come into my powder room and I'll show you a new wallpaper design that I am designing with an artist friend, Nancy V. Westfall. So this is one of the 2 wallpaper collections we have right now, and we have a few more on the horizon. This koi fish, but I think it looks great in here with the vaulted ceiling shower. This is our dining room, and I love our wallpaper, which is a new wallpaper that I've designed with my artist friend Nancy V. Westfall, and it's called Peacock Garden. And we used Farrow & Ball's Borrowed Light as the background for it. It comes in a few colorways. And then my husband, Mike, designed the molding for me. I couldn't figure out exactly what I wanted, and I wanted it to be really unique and work well with this wallpaper. So I was very happy that he did this and worked with our builder to make that happen. And you'll see more of just kind of my chinoiserie that I love. These are some old Italian iron flowers that were passed down to us. I wanted the round table because it just worked in this room that is so square. And this room is really kind of a pass-through in our house, so it really works, scale-wise, it works best. And I'm eventually going to put a tablecloth over it with, my coffee table books, which I'm obsessed with coffee table books and have millions of them, to use this room for more than just a dining room. I love to host dinner parties, so this table has been used a lot. And I have this piece here, which is great to hold all of my china and a lot of my silver that I also store in my kitchen because there's just not a lot of storage space here. I didn't want to put a huge piece in this room because I just didn't want it to hide the wallpaper. So this works well for me. Lamps that I found in an antique shop and painted the base to work with our wallpaper. And this was a wedding gift from our cousins. So I love pulling this out and using this. So this is just great to just, I keep my pressed linens stored in here, which works well. And then my china plates. So you'll see that my, china is the blue and green, which, works well with my chairs. And then I do love that these sconces were grandparents, these old Italian. They've been shipped in over the years, but they still mean a lot. Those were hanging in Mike's grandmother Irby's home in Atlanta. I love choosing art for my home, and I can't imagine ever letting anyone else choose it for me. It's just so personal, and so it's one of my favorite things to do. And if people ask me if I rotate art in and out, now I could never do that. I mean, I'll rotate, and once I buy a piece, it's mine forever. Sometimes I'll move it around or not use it during a certain time period, but I'll always bring it out. But I just love my art collection, whether they're hanging on the wall or they're under the bed for the time being. So this is our bar, and I started with this rule of 3 wallpaper, which I fell in love with. Design Social Studio here in Atlanta represents rule of 3. She's out of California. And I just think it's just this amazing marble wallpaper. And then once I found that, I used this Stifky blue, and I lacquered the bar in Farrow & Ball Stifky blue. And love this around the Moore & Giles leather. This is a little bistro table that I found in flea markets in Paris, which was so fun. And sometimes I'll sit here and have coffee in the morning, or sit here and have a glass of wine while my husband's cooking. But this bar is small, but it is funny when people are here, we all pile in here lots. And again, I love mixing old paintings in with everything. I love these glass blend, colorful glasses. So pretty. Lots of color. So now we'll go into the kitchen from the bar, and this is our very small kitchen. I decided to paint it this Scenic Drive by Benjamin Moore, which I do love. So we tried to renovate this kitchen the best we could, but we realized we've got to make it bigger. We're used to having a big island in our kitchen. So we are about to knock this out and double the size so that we have a large island and just redo it all. But I'm still keeping my green because I love my green. This is an old painting that I got at a little flea market in Italy that I love. We had all these, I hate seeing plugs, and so I got these Forbes and Lomax brass plate covers, which have been so great because I think they're so pretty in themselves. So that's been a nice addition. And then these lamps are from Oka, and these come in different colors. I think these are just the best inventions. I love them, and they happen to work with my green. And this is we were in Sicily, I guess back in like 2019, and this is one of the heads we got from Sicily. So again, just buying things when we travel that remind me of our trips. So we'll head from the bar to the family room. And in here, I actually painted it a neutral color because it needed that. So here I started with, the first thing I want to start with is this tile. I saw something similar to this and looked high and low and found this and so this was kind of the centerpiece of this room. This room is not symmetrical, so it's a real bear to try to figure out how to place furniture. I hate TVs in rooms, and my husband loves them. So that to try to distract from the TV, I had these two paintings commissioned by one of my artists, Kay Floral, out of Colorado. So it really kind of draws your attention to those sides, to the sides of the TV and not straight on it. I love this old Italian dog that we've had since we were married, that was passed down. These are lamps from North Georgia artists that Deering Antiques on Miami Circle sells these. I think these are really special. And I love the Cowton and Tout fabric that Elizabeth Graves chose for me. This one and this chair over there, which normally I would not have chosen, but I think they look great in here. And then mixed in with all these Peter Dunham fabrics that also are nice. This table is from ABC Modern off of First Dibs, and the guy who owns it, his name is Dean, he's a great guy, and I couldn't figure out what table I wanted in here. And I showed him pictures of the room, and he gave me 3 choices, and this was the first choice, which I think he nailed it, and I love it. So these are just geese that I found. I think I found them on Etsy or eBay. I just love the colors. You can never have too many coffee table books. And I do read my coffee table books often. You'll see that I have a lot of food dogs in my home. Love food dogs. These are old. Those are reproductions. So I think this was not original to the house. I think they probably built this maybe in the early 70s. And I love how it steps down. And then it has these windows, which we kept these windows. We took this room down to the studs because we love the original paneling and trim work, but it just was basically rotting. So we had somebody come and hand make custom this trim work for us. And then we kept these windows, which I just loved. So then I found these shelf sconces and these food dogs because it needed something fun up there. But this is one of my favorite parts of this room are these windows. And so then in here, I use this Casablanca fabric that a lot of my window treatments were designed by Elizabeth Graves and Jennifer Manziotti of Checks and Balances. But I think they're beautiful how they designed these. Again, the West Georgia artist who made these lamps. These are by the Ozar, who is the same designer who created the wallpaper in the foyer. So I just used her wallpaper and for these lamps, which I love. And they work so well with the Tony Swarthouse painting, which is above my sofa. Who's a gallery artist. This is by Dunes and Duchess. Stacy made this for me, as well as, I have a drink table similar in the same color. I found this at a antique shop in town, and I love always having boxes or containers on my coffee table where I can hide my remote controls. So this is nice to have that. And this is probably one of my favorite pieces. It's very, this was my grandmother's, my grandparents who lived in Charlotte. So every time I would arrive in their home in Charlotte, the first thing I would do to run into their house, and turn around the flower the other way. I love playing with this. So that's just kind of a special thing that reminds me of my childhood and happy times with my grandparents in Charlotte. This is a bronze dolphin umbrella stand, but I love the dolphin motif, and I have that throughout the house. I've always loved dolphins. One of my best friends growing up, her mother had, first of all, she had a gorgeous house in South Carolina, where I'm from, and her kitchen breakfast table had a dolphin base, and I remember just loving it my whole life. And she had some other ones, so I just have always fallen in love with it ever since. If someone is trying to build their art collection, the best thing they can do is just go around to art galleries, art fairs, and really just see what resonates with them. And when you see something that you love, buy it if you can afford it. And it'll be fun to watch how your styles will change over the years, and that's great. I mean, some people start out with just real traditional landscapes, and they eventually move to pure abstracts. But the beauty of that is your art collection has different genres in it, which makes it interesting. I mean, I love mixing old with new, traditional with edgy. The only thing that I don't have in my art collection is I don't want anything that's dark or makes a statement. That's not what appeals to me, and I don't want that in my home. But for some people they do, and that's wonderful. So just there should be no rules. It's what you really want, and it helps to define your personality and how your personality changes over the years. Okay, so next we'll go into my son's room. Very simple, he loves it. I have the Caleb Mahoney painting, works on paper framed. Gramercy Home did all of my bedding, which I just love everything they did. And in here, I use the Peter Dunham wallpaper. My son has always asked me not to put art in his room. He says, "Mom, my room is not an art gallery," but he has not commented on these Caleb paintings that I put in his room, which means that he likes it. That's a good sign, I guess. He said, "Let's go see my daughter's room." But first, we're passing by this little vignette that I created, because as I walk down our stairs, I see this every morning. And so it just kind of goes to show how there's always places for art everywhere. This was my in my home growing up, so I love the little zebra. But again, just more art to see. These I just picked up from, I was in Morocco in May and picked up these little trinkets, which I love. It reminds me of Morocco. This is by Aaron Clark, which is just a happy painting that I get to see every morning when I walk downstairs. This is to my daughter's room, and there used to not be a wall here, so you would just walk through her bedroom, but we had to create a wall and have this hallway. And so when we did that, her bedroom became a lot smaller. So what I did is decided to make all of her closet, everything built in, so no other furniture besides her bed and this bench. And the starting point here was Farrow & Ball Cologne. I love this purple color that she loved, and she chose this, the wallpaper. And Tilton Fenwick fabric here. I love out here, she has these French doors, so she can open up to the background outside, which is so nice. So in here, again, I love this wallpaper by Lee Rutledge, another painting by Erin McIntosh, and again brought this Kaluna in here as well. Sarah Quinn is a lot more particular of how her room is decorated, and she wants less color. She wanted the blue and the white. She didn't want a lot of art, but she's more particular than my son is. She loved her new, Gramercy Home did her monogram tiles, which she does love. She's always been kind of scared of the dark, so I bought this for her when she was probably about her age, maybe 10 years old. So I love that little painting that I've hanging by her door. I think what gives a home a soul is having things that really mean things to the owners and the people that live there. Whether that's, you know, a piece of pottery that my son or daughter made when they were 6 years old, or a family heirloom that's been passed down from my great-grandparents, or a painting that I bought on a trip when I was with Mike, and just a wonderful time in our life. Just all the things that I really love. So let's head upstairs to our primary suite. So upstairs is our primary suite, and I love that we have the upstairs space all to ourselves. So next, let's walk into our bedroom. So this was a really fun room for me to decorate because I wanted it to be, a lot of people want restful bedrooms, and I want it to be more showing our personality, be a little more energetic, but it's still restful to me. I started with the wallpaper. You can see the palms, Casa by PC. I love her palms with the third eye in the middle, and it mixed well with this art by Amy Wright, our Australian artist. So this is my husband's dressing room. Where he's very neat, so he has his own space, which is great. And we added this grass cloth to just kind of warm it up. And this is where Jean-Pierre sleeps every night, right next to him. So then we'll walk to my side. We're both huge readers, so I do sit in these chairs a lot and read a book. And then these are by Coley Home. Great little side tables. Gramercy has great lamps. Mike has asked a few times, when is there too much wallpaper in a home? And I always say never. So I think that's his nice way of saying that he feels like we've overloaded in that area. He also was not crazy about having a pink bedroom, but I said it's not pink, it's actually more coral, and it has lots of blue. So he kind of goes with the flow. He's a great gardener, so he does the outside, which we'll show you in a little while, and I do the inside. So it's a good compromise in that way. Then we'll go into my dressing room. Okay, welcome to my dressing room. This is one of my favorite spaces in our home. And it's really more than my dressing room. I mean, I use it a lot of times. I'll sit here and work at the desk, which is a beautiful desk made by Dunes and Dutches. And I just gave her my paint color, and she made this for me and my candelabra. And the starting point for this room was actually the wallpaper by Victoria Larson. It's called Sardinia, and I just saw it and loved it. And this room, the angles in this room were just screaming for wallpaper. And it's nice that everything is behind closed doors, you know, my shoe racks. Obviously, I needed a place to put my hanging clothes, but I didn't want this space to ever look messy. So I love that these are created so that I could hide all that. Because when I'm in here, it doesn't matter if it's messy behind all the doors and the fabric, it can still be a very restful space. And one of the things up here that I love is that the doors open up to this little balcony. And so you can just see outside and how pretty it is outside. So sometimes I keep the door open. And this is our primary bathroom, which we added these windows, so it's so nice to kind of look out and be able to see the beautiful trees. And I love just adding in a rug to warm up this space and this old rattan piece. And there's always places for art in your bathrooms as well. I usually put my art in bathrooms behind glass. So it's great to do works on paper behind glass to make sure it's protected. It's very important that we have separate vanities because he's very neat and I'm not. Now let's go see our little guest house out back. So my number one goal for this guest house was for it to be a very happy spot. And I started with this wallpaper by Maisie Path that is the happiest wallpaper I've ever seen. I love it. And found these lampshades from Maison Maison and this Mally Scott fabric. I made this ottoman out of her fabric. And it's just a great little house. It's just made for one or two. This sofa opens up to a bed, and we decided to have a sleepless sofa so that sometimes the kids could be out here watching TV and not have a bed in here, so that's worked out well. And I love that it has this little porch you can sit out and look over our gardens, which I'll show you next. So this garden was created by my husband. He spent a lot of time designing this, and we spent a lot of time out here. Especially on Sunday evenings by the fish pond with the music playing, and it's just been a wonderful spot to be outside. And luckily, again, in Atlanta, we can use it for many of the months of the year. And when it gets a little chilly, we have a fire pit over there that we sit around. And it's just so nice being outside, surrounded by trees and birds, and it's just a happy, good spot. Home for me is being with my family and friends. I love to entertain and to have everyone come over and just be together and have a great time and relax and feel comfortable. And this home, especially since that is our empty nest home, it's a place where I want my kids to come to and for them to one day bring their kids to, and it just to be a happy place for all the Urbies.
Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Brenda Ellis, and welcome to my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm really excited you're here, and I'm excited to show you around. Come on in. I've lived in this home since 2017. I actually bought the home in a short sale, which is a very difficult process. It took a long time to really take ownership of this house, and once I did, it was quite a project from there. It was not in great shape when I first purchased it. It had just not been taken care of, even though it was built in the early 2000s. It's a relatively new build. I moved in, as I said, in 2017, but it had just been poorly maintained. So there was a lot of work to be done when we first moved in before we could even inhabit the house. It's a pretty traditional classic home, which is my style, but I've infused it with color and a lot of personality and a lot of important features around the home that are important to me. So I look forward to showing you around. Let's get started in the entryway. I decided to start here with this settee. Obviously, it's a very neutral color palette. I found this rug at an antique market, really wanted to play off the brown tones. This is a painting from a local artist, Renee, and she commissioned this, picking up from tones that you'll see around the house. Some other art that I really love in this entryway are these 3 pieces of collected intaglios. I think that they're different than normal framed intaglios in that they're just such a large grouping of them, which I have shown here, and then in another place right here with this little moment in the entryway. I'd also like to point out, because a lot of people miss these really cute sconces. It's just a subtle detail, but each one has a little hand that's holding the sconce. And I feel like these are little things you'll see around my house that you might not notice right away, but if you come close, there's something really cool about them. I also really love, which is just a subtle detail, but we place these gold stair rods with just a basic sisal carpet. So it really elevates the look of the stairs with just a pretty gold detail. The entryway is one of the more calming, neutral parts of my house, but as we move through the rest of the room, you'll see how I've added a lot of pattern and color. The dining room, where we'll go next, is one of the most bold rooms of my house. As you can see, I've covered the full room in this really bold wallpaper pattern. The wallpaper was actually the first thing I picked in this room, and then I sort of built around it. I really love the colors. As you can see, as you peek into the bar, I picked up the colors from one of the trees and brought it in there. And then I really love this table, which came from my family. And so this sort of like red undertones of the wood came through in the curtains. And then in this buffet that I also inherited from my family. And then I pulled through the blue again in the shades to kind of tie everything together with color. As you can see, one of the focal points of this room is a portrait of my son, which I just had completed this spring. And it's actually a really special piece to me, not only because it's my son, but it is also done by a college friend who went from UVA to study in Italy. And his name is Richard Greathouse, and he's a very talented artist. So it was very special to work with him, not only because I knew him, but to paint obviously this gorgeous portrait of my son. And in a couple years, I will shift him over a little bit and hopefully put one of my daughter right next door. I also want to point out a couple other pieces of art in this room, which are special to me, and it's these 3 framed pictures of wax seals. I also found these at an antique market, and I love them because I'm a stationery designer, and so it kind of plays off that stationery while also feeling fitting for the room with the red tones that pull from the curtains. I chose this trim on the edge of these curtain panels and this blue velvet to pull out some of the blues from the wallpaper. I love the contrast that this gives against the salmon Dupioni silk curtains. I would describe my sense of style as classic and traditional, but with a bold punch. I really love classic pieces. A lot of them are inherited from my family or I found in antique markets, but then I like to blend it with something that's a bold punch. I would say I also do that in my stationery design, so that sort of, lends itself to how I like to style my home. There'll be a very traditional table, but a very bold wallpaper. Perhaps a very traditional style portrait, but maybe a funky style plate on the table. So I would say that's how I style my house throughout, is just a blend of traditional, funky, contemporary, but rooted in traditional pieces. So speaking of mixing old with new, I've done that in setting my table here. I've got these great fun, contemporary new plates that I got at a great home goods store here in Atlanta called Odd McLean. And I've paired it with just a very traditional blue and white plate. So you get a pop of that blue, which ties into the blues in this room, and then brown, chocolate brown, one of my favorite colors, pulling from the traditional pieces in the room. So I always like to pair something traditional with something very contemporary. These traditional crystal glasses, a contemporary tortoise wine glass, and then a mix of traditional and contemporary silverware. It's acrylic, but a traditional looking pattern. Anytime I'm having a dinner in this room, whether it's a large dinner or an intimate dinner with family, I always like to have some paper on the table, particularly place cards. I'm the owner of Dear Eloise, a stationery business in Atlanta, Georgia. So that is where my love of paper comes in. These are some beautiful place cards I designed with a gold calligraphy on a navy paper, and I put them in the center of each plate to let everyone know where they're sitting. Let me tell you a little bit about the lighting in this room. To contrast against the more traditional pieces in the room, I chose more contemporary lighting. These lamps on each end of the banquette and then the chandelier over the dining room. I love the contrast that these bring to the traditional pieces. This is probably a very unpopular opinion for many interior designers, but as a mom of 2 kids and a very busy business owner, I can't seem to keep a single plant alive. So I've done a lot of research to find the most realistic faux plants. We've got this one here, some paper whites, and then we've got these 2 ferns in each of these wicker stands. Therefore, I never have to worry about them dying, and then maybe when my kids are grown and off to college, I can keep something living alive. Off the dining room, we have one of my favorite little spaces, this butler's pantry and bar area. I painted it this beautiful dark blue color, pulling from the tones and the wallpaper in the dining room. And I filled these cabinets with some of my favorite glassware. One of my favorite features in this bar is the sink. I love this hardware, I love the top knob, and I love the hammered metal sink. Something I've had fun doing is collecting antique silver bar pieces. I love this antique silver shaker. I also love this pretty antique silver jigger and this little special tray for resting the cocktail spoon on. Some of the glassware I use most often is these rattan tumblers. I feel like they're good in any season, and then when you fill it with an icy beverage, it keeps everything cold and keeps the condensation from getting on your hands and on the table. These were some fun glasses I got last Christmas at that store Odd McLean I mentioned that's here based in Atlanta, Georgia. I love the tiny little green bubbles on the glass. They're fun around Christmas, but they're also fun any time of the year. I'd also like to point out these tiny little lamps. You'll see that I have these scattered throughout my house. They're so functional because they're battery operated. So you can turn them on and off with this tiny little switch, but you can also move them around as you need it. It kind of gives the effect of candlelight without having to light candles constantly. On the opposite side of the bar, we have this custom cabinetry pantry. The bar, and then moving into the kitchen, is one of the first spaces I completely renovated. The pantry has floor-to-ceiling, custom cabinetry. I love these knobs that are in the center. And then I painted, obviously, floor-to-ceiling in this blue color, including all the way up to completely cover the ceiling. The butler's pantry and the bar connects to the kitchen. And this is one of the main first spaces that I completely renovated in the house. I think the first thing I want to point out is the color of the cabinetry. I didn't choose a stark white. I wanted a warmer white that felt warm and comfortable and not completely stark white clean. When we first moved in this house, the kitchen had a very similar layout. The island was in the middle. The refrigerator, which is right here, was on this side of the wall. So we moved it to be here, and we actually mirrored this refrigerator with this hidden coffee bar on this side. It was really important to me that all the appliances be as hidden as possible. I like the kitchen to feel very clean, but also very functional. So on this wall right here, it was originally designed as a full wall of cabinetry. To me, that just felt very busy and space that I wouldn't use. So instead, I had the cabinet designer create these open shelves. Open shelves do seem very intimidating to me because you have to style them and keep them well maintained. So in this case, I chose a very select few cream-colored dishes, and again, you'll see these really functional battery-operated lights. This creates a pretty design moment, but without something I have to constantly maintain. After I selected the paint color and the gold hardware and these beautiful marble countertops, the next thing I selected were these pendants. I wanted to bring some color to the room. So I chose these olive green and gold pendants that again bring something a little contemporary to the kitchen. Actually, these are the second set of bar stools that I have in this house. The first set were bar stools without a back. And after I lived in those for a while, I realized that something more comfortable would be with a back. And so I chose these, again, a rattan bar stool to bring something comfortable and a different texture into the room. But they came with a fabric cushion. And when you have 2 children under 5, that's not going to work out. So my decorator chose this beautiful fabric that we then had sent off to be vinylized. So anytime a kid spills spaghetti, wipes peanut butter fingers, these can easily be wiped off. You'll see in another room of the house how I use this vinylizing fabric again, and it's so functional when you want to choose a pretty fabric, but you also have kids. One feature that I think really adds to the calming feel of this kitchen is that there isn't such a divide between the marble countertops and the backsplash. I wanted that to be a seamless look from counter all the way to ceiling. So I took the marble up to the backsplash, around the window, up behind the stove, and I actually had my designer hide a lot of the plugs up in the cabinetry. So as you'll see, there's nowhere around the marble where there's a plug, but we do have them tucked in throughout. Even though I completely renovated this kitchen, the footprint of this main floor and this living space hasn't really changed. I think that is the sign of this being a newer build house in the 2000s versus an older home, and I think that's something that works really well for my family. I'd like to move to this kitchen table. I chose a round table here compared to my dining room where I have an oval table. Again, I paired a more contemporary table with a traditional chair that I found at an antique market. I covered these chairs again with that vinylized fabric. I wanted something very pretty here, but I also wanted these to be functional for my kids. So I never have to worry about any spills on these. I chose this hexagonal light above the kitchen table that has a lot of clear glass in it. I wanted something that didn't feel heavy in the center of this room so that when you're standing on one end of the room looking at the other, your eye doesn't go to something very heavy in the center. You can see through it. It brings a darker bronze element that pulls out some of the darker tones. It also brings another design element and another shape to the room. This is one of the more recent pieces I've added in this room. It's taken me a while to try to find the piece that I wanted to put up on this wall. And I found it at a estate sale, actually, and it was listed on the website, and I saw it, and I immediately was one of the first in line to grab this piece. I love that it brings out some of the darker tones in the room with this brown. Then I filled this cabinet with some of my favorite little treasures. There's some great pictures of my kids. Every time I visit a special place I love in the Bahamas, I try to bring back a different shell. There's a picture of my puppy and some other great books and plates to bring some color to this piece. I decided to flank this cabinet with these botanical bird prints that came from a book. I took pages of the book and then I framed them in this fun frame, and then I also pulled a little bit of color from the print and created a border around the frame. As you can see in this space, the walls are white dove, actually one of my favorite colors, and the kitchen is very bright. But what I did was I painted the doors in this room a black color to give high contrast. Someone once told me there should be a little bit of black in every room, and so I've done that, as you can see, in different spaces in my home. So we'll move from the kitchen and the kitchen table area into my living room family area. This whole space is very open, and we spend a lot of time in this area. This is also where I entertain a lot, so having this space very open is something that works really well for my family. This space for the casual living area, I wanted to keep very neutral and very kid-friendly. So a lot of the fabrics can easily, be sat on by kids, and nothing is too precious in this room. I chose some blue and some green and some neutral prints. I love how the shades on these lamps also tie into the pillow here. I love this little bit of fringe detail on the pillow. I love how the navy in this pillow, which is a little bit of a floral print, but also contrasts against something masculine like this stripe. I think that's something that you'll see I do in the house, is I contrast something feminine like a floral against something that maybe is a little more masculine like this pinstripe. Again, here's another one of my famous faux plants. This one is an orchid. It sits in the center of this table. Again, it brings something living to the room, but I never have to worry about it dying. One of my favorite design elements in the room is this French chair. This came from my mother, and it was in a very traditional fabric when I first got it. I wanted this chair to be an anchor in this room, but I wanted to bring some design element to it. So we chose this chocolate brown fabric with this beautiful pattern, and I feel like this brings something fun to the room where everything is very neutral and subdued. This brings a little bit of a punch. So the built-ins on either side of the fireplace, I renovated when I did the kitchen. It was sort of a last-minute add-on. When I was doing the kitchen and all the cabinetry, I said, well, why don't we go ahead and do this space too? So there were already bookcases on either side of the fireplace that went to the ceiling, but they were straight and they didn't have this arch. This was a feature I wanted to add. It adds something different, it adds another shape, it adds a design element. I love the arch on either side of the bookcase. I love the design it brings, and I've loved filling them with different elements that are special to me. From books to pictures to bowls to different things I've gotten on trips. The bookcases are filled with different little elements that I love. One of my favorite things on the bookcase is this giant bowl of matches. I started this collection when I was in college, and it's just grown ever since. I grab one of these great matchbooks every restaurant or hotel or trip I go to, and now it's a fun memory book in itself. Of all places I've been, sometimes I like to throw my hand in there and pick a random one, and maybe that's the restaurant we'll go to. So Bar Margot in Atlanta. I really love the window treatments in this room. I love the neutral pattern, but I also love the black hardware. Again, I love a little bit of black in every room. I think it creates contrast. It looks really chic. I love the black hardware on the curtains, and I love the black sconces here as well. One of the features I really love about this house is all the many fireplaces there are throughout. This is one of them, and it's actually one of the few wood-burning ones I have in the house. So the others that are in some other rooms are gas that are easily turned on and off with a switch, and I tend to use those a little bit more. But this wood-burning one I love to use around the holidays. I think the lamp on this table is a really unexpected cool lamp. I love the ombre effect from the bottom to the top. I think it brings something unexpected to the room. It brings in another color of this deep red that kind of moves to this purple color. Being that this is the main entertaining space of my house, I love that it opens directly to the backyard. With kids, this is great. I can be entertaining in the kitchen and in this living space and have these doors wide open where the kids can run and play. And welcome to the porch. This was one of the other things we added onto this house. Before there was this beautiful covered porch, it was this old trellis that was covered in vines. So we had to tear that off, and then we added this covered porch to seamlessly add living from the inside to the outside. In Atlanta, there are a lot of months of the year that are very hot, so I added 2 fans to the ceiling to create a lovely airflow. It was also really important that I had gas lighting out here. I love the look of candlelight, and I love what gas lighting really brings to the porch. I also found this wood beam at an antique market, and I had them make this into the mantle on the stone wall there. The furniture on the porch is all from Ballard's. It's a great dark iron furniture. I feel like it's upheld really well. I've used outdoor cushions in a really dark color because constantly these get dirty with time, so I feel like the dark color really hides that outdoor wear and tear. I contrasted it with an outdoor pillow and a great pattern. It also goes really well with the stone, the gray and warm tones. I love the mix of grays and warm brown tones here. When I designed this porch, a really important element was to have an outdoor fireplace. I love sitting around here, having the fire in the winter and in the fall months. It was really important that I have the logs for the fire really be easy access so that you can constantly keep it going. I designed this little alcove here to keep the wood so that's always really easy and ready to go. This dining table is another great set from Ballard's to match the furniture here. I love to set up a dinner here. If I'm also hosting a party, I'll just set up all the food here. It's great to be able to entertain outside, especially when you have kids running around. It keeps all the mess outside, but you can still have a beautiful dinner. All right, let's head back inside where there's the AC. Okay, we're back inside and I wanted to take you into our little powder room. I love this room and wanted to cover it in a great wallpaper. I chose this tortoise print, which originally I was shown in a traditional brown tortoise, but then my eye caught this green tortoise pattern and I knew that's what I wanted to use. So I love the wallpaper, and then I love these great little pieces of art I have over the toilet, which are different matchboxes from every different city I've lived in. In the corner of this room, I have a great little tortoise table with this great bowl on top. And then another feature I love in the powder room are these great little scallop shades. It's hard to see, but they come in this great little robin's egg blue color to contrast against the green wallpaper. And here we are in my formal living area. Actually, I call this room my Martini room. I call it my Martini room for a few reasons. One, I think the colors really remind me of a martini. There's this sort of icy blue-green walls where I completely covered the rooms in this molding. And then there's this olive green sofa. I think the skirted table in this room is really fun. I especially love the fringe at the bottom and the blue pattern that covers it. Again, you'll see one of my favorite faux plants making its appearance here in the corner of this table. And then I love the lamp. I love the color it brings to the room and some of the other pieces on this table. This artwork piece my decorator found, and when she showed it to me, I instantly fell in love. I feel like it brings a big punch to this room. In every room in the house, I always like to have something that brings a big punch. This is really graphic, it's colorful, it really contrasts against a lot of the really traditional pieces with something modern and cool and different. And I love the big scale of it on this wall. I love this olive green sofa for my Martini room. I love these olive green pattern pillows, but I would say one of my favorite things is this leopard pillow in the center. I have this picture frame here of my grandmother wearing this leopard coat that she gave to me when she passed away. I knew I couldn't wear the leopard coat, so I wanted to do something really important. And a friend suggested I have it made into a pillow. So I did, and I have it featured right here on the center of the sofa, and I think of her every time I come in this room. For my Martini room, I also found this great faux spilled Martini glass. I love that feature in this room to remind me of my Martini drinking. I love these boxes and the texture that they bring. I love the acrylic coffee table in this room. I feel like it does the job of being a coffee table and a place to rest your drinks, but it doesn't feel heavy. It really lets the carpet, the pattern, the great print shine in this room without being such a huge, fixture that hides that pretty pattern. I think these chairs that swivel are very functional in this room. When I'm hosting a group of girls, we're all drinking our martinis. It's great these can rotate. I like that the fabric here is a velvet. This is not something I would use in any other room in the house with children, but in this room I think it's really lovely and luxurious and a great texture. I love that we framed these pillows on the back and this box pattern. I think it makes these chairs feel very special. There's another fireplace in this room which I love. This one's a gas fireplace, so it's a lot easier to flip on and on with a switch. You don't have to lug logs through the house into this room. I think it's very functional and can be used in different seasons. On either side of the fireplace, I have these matching chest of drawers that are really beautiful. These lamps are actually urns I found in an antique market that I had made into lamps. I really love how big they are and make a statement on these pieces. And then the art behind them. These are two panels I found on an antique website that I bid on and won for $50. And then I had them framed in this great bamboo frame. and have them mirrored on each side of the fireplace. And then on this wall, I have these 3 plates. Again, a marble pattern, something I really love. I love to use marble in stationery. So having something in my home that is also that print is very fun. I like the black as well. Again, a little bit of black in each room, and this is that little touch for me. All right, so that wraps up the main floor of this house, and I'd love to take you upstairs to take a look at the primary bedroom. Okay, and here we are in the primary bedroom, my bedroom in the house. I love the fabrics and the colors of this room. I like they're unexpected. It's a really pretty kind of sea green blue, again against this dark forest green. I love the pillows with my monogram on them, and then this great contrasting fabric that pulls out those green and blues here on the pillows and then on this bench. Another thing I like are these lamps. Again, a really strong color, bringing out something different in this dark, dark navy blue. And then these fun shades we found, the kind of ombre look effect from light to dark. My favorite fireplace out of the several we have in the house is actually the one I have in my master bedroom. I love that this one is a gas fireplace. Again, easily turned on with a switch. I know you don't get the crackle of a log like you do with a wood burning, but there is something really nice in the winter when you're laying in bed just to have that fire on. As you can see, we have a lot of seating in this room. We have this chair here. We have these 2 chairs that match the fabric on my headboard. As a busy mom of 2, I don't really get the opportunity to sit in all these chairs. Typically, it's a nice place to rest, a lovely basket of laundry, or a stack of kids' books. But I do love to have the option for seating and different areas for things in this room. The most recent space I've renovated in the house has been my primary bath. And to tell you what a treat it is to have this space is an understatement. It's one of the spaces that I've really enjoyed the most as a mom and where I really get to go and kind of have my alone time. So let me take you in there. Okay, here's my master bath, which as you can see is a pretty good sized space. I love that it feels really fresh and really clean, but there are a lot of special details I like in this room. For one, I have a really beautiful freestanding tub. That was something I knew I wanted when I renovated this bath. Now, I can say that I've probably taken a bath in that tub 1 time. My kids have enjoyed that tub almost every night, but I do love that it has a little hose on top, and one day I will lay in that tub with candlelight and enjoy it very much. But until then, I really love this space. I love the marble countertops. I love this really high contrast marble that has the dark grains in it. I think it creates something really dramatic in this all white bathroom. I particularly love the sconces in this room. I think they're unique in that they kind of swivel. They all feel a little off center, but I love the chrome finish throughout, the pleated shades, and then these wood tortoise-like mirrors to bring in some dark wood in this room. In a room that can feel very cold with a lot of marble and tile, I wanted to bring something warm in this room with fabric. So I created this glass cabinet with a fabric covering inside. I chose this really neutral but very pretty fabric, and I love that there's a little bit of glass in this room, but it hides all the towels and other bathroom things inside. A moment I really like in this bathroom is the oval window I added above the bathtub. This is something I debated on for a while. There is a really traditional square window here, but pulling the plug and actually adding this oval window was one of my favorite things I did. There's not another one of these shaped windows in the house, so I feel like it's really special to have in this room, and I think this moment is really pretty right here. So when I chose this marble, I was right in between 2 slabs. So the decorator advised me to create one of the slabs, or use one of the slabs and create this great framing around the shower, and I'm so glad we did it. I feel like it creates a nice shape. It also uses the marble in another place in the room, and I can't imagine not having that now. Home is a place for me that is a reflection of my own style, but I think most importantly, it is a place where my family feels comfortable and where I feel comfortable entertaining people. I want everyone to feel warm and welcome when they come in here. I don't want anything to be too precious, but I also want people to come in this house and feel like they know me and they're welcome here. Thanks, Homeworthy, for stopping by. Until next time.
Today on Homeworthy, we're bringing you to Atlanta, Georgia for a look inside interior designer Jessica Davis's beautiful mid-century modern home. Built in the 1960s, Jessica has decorated the classic post and beam style home with eclectic and whimsy finishes, an approach that is also reflected in her hardware line, Nest Studios. Having grown up in Hong Kong and lived all over the world, Jessica's home is collected and layered. Magnolia paneling warms up each room inside, while the lush outdoor spaces offer the perfect respite. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Jessica Davis. Welcome to my home in Atlanta. I can't wait to show you around. Come on in. Our house was designed in 1960 by Jerry Cooper, who's an Atlanta architect. It's a classic mid-century post and beam style home. When we saw this house, we knew it was a great diamond in the rough, and we really wanted to get in and put our stamp on it. Some of the things that we did was to update the floor, which was a slate, with a classic mid-century terrazzo. We painted the brick and the beams to really accentuate them. I also love to collect art, so I have gallery walls and sort of focal point pieces throughout the house. I love these giant overscaled knobs that are original to the home. I also love to kind of layer, and this is a rug that my dad actually collected on his travels to the Silk Road in China in the 80s. Over here we have a original magnolia wall with this paneling, and that's something that we wanted to really keep. It warms up the house, and we layered all of this art that we've collected over the years to create this gallery wall in this space. As an interior designer, I love to do gallery walls that have meaning but really showcase somebody's collection. So for me, we have pieces that are by our friends, pieces that I have painted myself in college, and even things by my kids. And I think when you weave these things all together, including vintage pieces, it really tells a nice story and elevates all of the art. What's unique about this home is that there's so many hallways, and they're very wide, so they feel like they're kind of their own spaces, and we wanted to play into that. So we even have little furnishings here and there in the hallway. This is a rocking horse that I've had since my childhood in Hong Kong in the 80s. And I love these walls of windows. And what's really great about these windows is the fact that there's this stationary pane of glass at the bottom. So they're great for dogs. Our dogs walk along here, they can see outside, but when the windows are open, they can't jump against the screens or jump out the windows. So I don't know if the original architect thought about that, but I think it's an amazing sort of practical choice. So I grew up in Hong Kong and spent a lot of time in China over the years, and this is my snuff bottle collection that I've collected really ever since I was young. One of these I've had since I was in elementary school, and I used to use it as a prop to play with my Barbies. So really kind of expanded this over the years in my travels to China and enjoy seeing it every day. Right here is a piece of art by one of our friends, Nils Eriksson. He's a photographer. He's mainly a sports photographer, but we love having one of his pieces in our home to remind us of him. Off of our entryway is our sunken living room. Let's head there next. This is our living room. I love that it is a big volume of space and that both the floor goes down and the ceiling goes up. We have this classic kind of mid-century fireplace, and we really wanted to make it a little more neutral. It was this weird yellowy brown brick, so we painted that white, and the white brick carries through to this built-in bench, which is again a very classic mid-century element. Because of the strange bricks, I wanted some sort of artwork on here that would fit in this frame, and we used these amazing Katie Gong knots here that have a really sculptural quality. Also, because the room is so big, we separated it into two different seating groups. So we have our fireplace seating group as well as the main kind of loungy area separated by a daybed. You can see that the gallery wall that was in the hallway carries around onto this wall in the living room on the magnolia paneling. And again, it's a mix of things that have been done by me and my children, this large piece, and other vintage pieces and local artists that we've gathered along the way. We incorporated the TV into the gallery wall as well, which kind of makes it go away and makes it feel a little more intentional. This is a custom credenza that I had made to highlight some of my hardware pieces and also sort of has a mid-century vibe. So in this fireplace seating group, I have these vintage Milo Bauman chairs that I found on Cherish. And I love that they're sort of low slung and really cozy. And I paired them with this really shiny hay table, and I love that it reflects the wood on the ceiling. I also have a knack for collecting little vintage animals, brass animals. So I have elephants, I have some brass nutcrackers on the coffee table, ducks. So you'll see this kind of sprinkled around throughout the house. There's a moratorium now on buying more brass animals. I'm not allowed to do it anymore. And now I have a vintage table that I found on Facebook Marketplace, along with a really kind of 80s sofa that's super loungy that I love. I always try to make sure things are livable. So this is an indoor-outdoor fabric. We have a lot of kids and dogs running from place to place, so it needs to be really durable. So my personal style is really kind of eclectic and collected. I like to say it's a little bit of off-kilter, so I like things that inspire whimsy and are a little bit weird. So the blobby sofa, this table that's very traditional in form and has this kind of Jenny Lind dowel type form, are all a mix of different things. There are some mid-century items, but it's really a mix of different eras that play together nicely. We are a family of music lovers and art lovers, so along with creating art with my children, we all love to play music. This is my piano that has traveled across the Pacific with me a number of times and has landed here in Atlanta, and my children still play it. We have a guitar, a drum set in the corner. Even though I'm a designer, I do live here too, and we like to have these things easily accessible for our children to play around with and not hidden away. One of the things that really drew us to this home was the indoor-outdoor feel of the house. We're only 15 minutes from downtown Atlanta, but it feels like you're really nestled into the forest, and the big windows accentuate that. So there are several places in the home where you really have this indoor-outdoor connection here in the living room, in the dining room, and some of the other spaces we'll see next. So why don't we go into the dining and kitchen? We're in the dining and kitchen area now, and this is where we did a lot of reconfiguring when we got the house. The dining room was closed off from the kitchen in a more sort of traditional layout. It had this horrible gray carpeting. And one thing we did was to open it up, and this wall had that same magnolia paneling, which we then salvaged and carried through to our pantry and fridge wall. We wanted everything to feel integrated because it is so open and kind of hidden. So the fridge is hidden, the pantries are hidden, and we have a little coffee nook that we created here. The island is really the heart of our home, with the sink and just the beautiful big surface here. And one thing we wanted to do, even though the kitchen is so open to the rest of the house, is that we added skylights here because it is one of the few spaces that's actually kind of an interior space. There are no actual windows in the kitchen. In here, I really wanted the island to kind of contrast from the magnolia paneling. And one thing that I played around with was the hardware. So I used my line, the Deco series from Nest Studio, and played around with the unlacquered brass against the black, and contrasting with the black version of that against the magnolia here. And I am personally a fan of open shelving in kitchens to an extent. And what I like to do is, on the shelf that we use a lot of the items, I like to display those, and they get used a lot so things aren't getting dusty. And then we have a nice upper display shelf where we have some fun accessories and things that we've collected over the years. One thread that carries throughout our home is little pops of red, and the stove being one of them, and is really a feature in our kitchen, the red stove. And you'll see the red again carried into the dining chairs and into our snug. So it's something, a thread that carries throughout the house. I also love this fire clay tile that we did for the backsplash and the hood. I feel like it really brings a handmade and tactile element to the space that otherwise feels like pretty sleek. So we also have a little seating nook on this side of the kitchen. This used to be a funny hallway and a laundry room, and we really reconfigured this when we created our kids wing. So I love this little loungy area. Our dogs love to sit here and look out the window. One of the cool things about this area is this little secret passage in this cabinet that goes to my daughter's room. And this was an idea that I had. I think that my inner child wanted to have this. And so I incorporated it into the design of this space. Since we were doing it, I figured why not? And it kind of acts as a side table as well. In this seating nook, we have a little bit more of a traditional piece of art. Our last home was a Victorian, so like I mentioned, I love all different styles, and I like to mix things with even kind of elaborate gilt frames. I feel like it's just a perfect moment here in this seating area. So the bench is also extra storage. We have more Nest hardware here, and then tons and tons of games, board games. We have a little cutout here that allows light in and peers into the kids' hallway. Part of the reasoning for that was actually the fact that we have an electrical panel hidden behind this rolling screen, and we really didn't want to move it. That's like a big expense to move your electrical panel. So taking into account those types of items, but making interesting design choices because of them. I'm a real big fan of high-low and splurging on some things and saving on others. In the kitchen, we really wanted to salvage that magnolia paneling, and instead of trying to mill that and try to find it new. So we did that whole wall in that. I love these decked-on counters. They're a little bit of a splurge. You can put hot pans on them. You can even clean it with nail polish remover. So it's perfect for a family that makes a mess and likes to do arts and crafts and stuff like that on here. Little other things, I did these custom knurled brass island legs, and they tie into the knurled brass on our faucet. I found a local metal worker to make those. And then I love these sort of cool Etsy stools that fit together. I love to source fun things from Etsy. They're not expensive. I like to find really fun, unique makers. Let's go into the dining area. The dining area, it feels more intimate because we have this chandelier. Because of the post and beam ceilings in this house, there aren't a lot of opportunities for decorative lighting, but we have this kind of pendant mobile style chandelier in the dining. And again, little touches of red on the back of the dining chairs that weave throughout. This is actually a table that I found on Facebook Marketplace years ago, and I personally lacquered it a mint green color, which is again a color that you kind of see throughout the home. As you can see, the dining room really opens up to the outdoors, so let's head there next. So here we are in our backyard, and what I really love about this house is all of the amazing existing hardscaping and landscaping, these beautiful Japanese maples that kind of frame this seating area. We've added some fun string lights that make it really festive and intimate in the evening. We love to entertain. One of the things that we added in our second phase was this pass-through window to our kitchenette and bar area, so it makes it really great for having people over. Why don't we head up to the pool next and our fun kids play area. What I love about this property is how many different outdoor spaces there are. I love to garden and I love to help create these outdoor rooms with plantings as well. I love that there's so many different native fauna that come here. We have a lot of butterflies, hummingbirds, deer, chipmunks, so that's really a lot of fun to see out the window. This pool is an original kidney-shaped pool, so it's very mid-century as well. We did do some resurfacing here, but it's basically original. And as you can hear, there's tons of cicadas. We really are kind of out in the woods. I love that when you're out here, you don't feel like you're 15 minutes from downtown Atlanta. It really feels like you're out in the middle of the forest. You can't see any of the neighbors, so it's super private. We have the fire pit area over here, which we use a lot in the fall and the winter. One of the things I love about gardening is growing my own fruits and vegetables. So this is actually a fig tree that I planted 5 years ago, and it's actually now probably 15 feet tall. We have blueberries and even more fruits and veggies up on the roof. So my kids really love it out here. We have a rope swing, the pool, obviously. My son's super into wiffle ball, so he's created his own wiffle ball field with a home run fence back in the play area. We have a hammock and a slide up in the woods, so it's really kind of like a kids' playground out here. We are in Georgia. It's starting to get hot, so let's head back inside. I have a lot more to show you. After we did our first round of renovations, we did a whole addition onto the home to add square footage and workspace. And one of the things we did was add this hallway, which connects the new part of the house. And this hallway is really multifunctional. It contains tons of storage. We have a coat closet, this sort of command center niche, as well as our laundry behind these doors that fold back. One of the things, because of the height of the hallway, was that we added cabinets all the way up and this ladder that can run the whole length of the hallway to access the cabinets. One of the things I wanted to do was really pay homage to what's going on in the main part of the house. So I did this whole wall of paneling. You can't find magnolia paneling anymore, so I decided to make it black. And then we did the same wood on the ceilings, and you'll see that we carried that whole architectural style through to the new addition. Another thing that the hallway conceals is a little powder room that's kind of a little gem, and it's wallpapered in this crazy dragon wallpaper grass cloth that I got from Spoonflower. It's just a little surprise behind this hidden door. And then moving on this way, we have a bunch more storage. This is essentially like a buffet that we have here, even more pantry storage, kind of right adjacent to the dining room. And then we head into what I like to call the snug. So heading into this new area of the house, on the way to the snug, you run through the kitchenette, which is that area that we use for indoor-outdoor entertaining with our pass-through window. One of the things that we have carried throughout the house is this cork flooring, which is very mid-century modern, but I also love that it's a green product. It's super sustainable and feels great underfoot. So here in the snug, we call it the snug because it's very cozy and intimate. It's one of the few spaces that doesn't have a lot of windows. It's a great place to watch TV, and we really intentionally made it really cozy and warm. And I wanted to play again with color. So we have more pops of red in here. I love this Tibetan tiger rug. It's sort of a modern take on something that's more traditional. As you know, I love to collect art. So these are two local artists. This is a piece by Sergio Suarez, who's really up and coming, and he does these amazing giant scale woodcuts. So I also love playing with light. And because we're not doing a lot of cool decorative ceiling lighting, I love to play with sconces in this home. And I love this double arm kind of squiggly sconce that we used here. Beyond the snug is our guest room and what I call our guest and pool bath. And I love that our guests here really have their own living space when they come and kind of can be separate from the rest of the family if they want. As a designer, it was really exciting to design this space from scratch. I designed the custom sectional to fit it perfectly. And one of the clever things that I wanted to do was, in creating this side table here, you wouldn't know it, but the air return is hidden behind this cane panel so the air can flow in, but you don't see this ugly air return on the wall. Let's head up to my studio space. This is my studio space where my interior design team meets and makes all of the magic happen. One of the things I wanted to do was really highlight my hardware collection. I also design hardware. So that's what we did on all of these cabinets. We used all of our different collections of hardware. And this is where we store all of our products for our library. I love how much light there is here. It's so inspiring to kind of work up in this tree house. And I also really enjoy painting. So this is also kind of my painting studio here as well, and it opens up onto our roof deck. So in the studio space, I really wanted to play again with color, as I like to do. We have these kind of oxblood red tables, and I love to play with texture too. So playing with the traditional kind of Pantone chair form, but in a wicker version of that. I love to paint, as I mentioned, and I really like to paint figures. It's just something that I've always been fascinated by. So that's kind of what I'm up to here. And we have this Brent War chandelier. He's a local artist in Georgia, and he does these amazing plaster pieces. This was commissioned specifically for this space, and I love how it fits so perfectly. I've always enjoyed being creative. Even as a child, I was drawing house plans, so I think I always knew that I wanted to go into this industry. I started by working for a very large design firm and kind of cut my teeth there. And then about 12 years ago, I started my hardware line, Nest Studio, kind of in conjunction with having kids, and then did some design work here and there as part of Nest, then moved down to Atlanta, where I really formalized my design firm and started Atelier Davis. And we've been doing all sorts of projects around the country, both residential and commercial, some really fun restaurant spaces and a Pilates studio, and really enjoying working on those things. And this space is so inspiring. I love taking cues from nature and just from things that I find in everyday life, even things from like subway handles and like machinery that I see. Those often play into my hardware designs. So it's really interesting to see where inspiration can come from. But like I said before, this whole space feels like it's in a tree house, and part of that is because we have this amazing outdoor roof deck. Let's head out there. So here we are on the roof deck. I love being out here. As I mentioned, I love gardening, and we have these raised planters where I'm growing tomatoes, watermelons, beans, zucchinis. One of the things that's great about having all of this on the roof is the fact that the deer and the rabbits cannot get up here, so I'm able to grow these things without their interference. I have a bunch of tomatoes growing here, some thyme, and a squash, which is hidden down here. And then I have cucumbers and okra. I'm waiting for this giant cucumber to be ready. And then I have a ton of tomatoes, these giant basil plants. they're doing kind of amazing up here. So lots of sun and the plants are really happy. I actually have some watermelons. I have a little baby watermelon growing here, as well as some peppers. So I really enjoy coming out here and picking things and watering them. It's just a nice respite for me. So the roof deck continues over here, and I love that the beams on the outside, the inside of the house, carry through to the outside. And we have this little seating area here where I can sit, have my coffee, and I can even monitor the kids in the pool down below. All right, let's head back inside. Here we are in the primary bedroom. What I love about this room is that it feels like such a sanctuary. It's surrounded by the woods on both sides. I love this little seating area here with our Nye armchair. It's a classic Japanese designed modern armchair. And then on the headboard wall, I have another textile that my parents picked up for me on their travels. And I love incorporating all of those in unique and interesting ways. These are some custom nightstands that I designed, and I know I mentioned a little while back the mint on our dining table. It's just a color that I weave in, and I love this kind of powder-coated mint hardware that I used here. I love playing with bedding and textiles. This is a long kind of linen bedspread. So instead of doing your traditional comforter with a skirt or duvet, this just sort of casual flows onto the floor. It's intentionally wrinkly and just really loose and flowy. One of the things I did in here was to paint the original plywood subfloor. It was carpeted before, and I just wanted to do something quick and easy. And this has really lasted a long time, and I love the kind of dark gray contrast with everything else that feels light and airy. So our primary bath is a feature that we renovated as part of our second phase, and I love that it still feels mid-century, but it's super fun. We did this custom fire clay tile, again with a little bit of a touch of that brick red, and terrazzo countertops. And we used my Nest Studio hardware line in kind of a unique way here on the cabinets on the corners. And we have this great bathtub, which is the perfect place to lounge. Because we're so private, I didn't include any drapery or anything, and I can just sit here and look out the window at the woods. Again, I love to bring artwork into bathrooms as well. I have this vintage Picasso print that I picked up at an antiques mall, and then another painting that I did actually of taking a bath, which is kind of perfect in the bathtub room. All right, so this is my daughter's room. I really like to not try too hard to design kids' spaces and let them have free rein to be creative. So you can see that this is not overly designed, and she's added all sorts of her own touches. One thing I love is this wallpaper, which is sort of a color on wallpaper, and you can see that she's colored portions of the paper. And then we've done a little canopy here. And this is where the secret passage exits, right next to her desk. So you can crawl through there and end up in her room. The one thing that I really picked out was the wallpaper, but because it's a color on wallpaper, she's added all of her own touches, and she has a big say when it comes to color. Lavender is her favorite color, and yellow. So it's really evolved over the years and become something that is truly her. To me really means a sanctuary, a place to rest and recharge, make memories with my family and friends, and really showcase my own personality and all of the quirkiness that comes with it. So Homeworthy, thanks so much for coming on this home tour with me. It's been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it. Time to get back to it. Bye.
On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Atlanta, Georgia, visiting the home of interior designer Kevin Francis O'Gara. Kevin describes his style as New Regency, blending old and new elements in true Southern fashion. Since founding his design studio in 2018, Kevin has brought a refreshing take on classic style to interiors in Atlanta and the Southeast, Growing up with an appreciation for antiques, he skillfully balances timeless style with a contemporary approach. Enjoy!
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Kevin. Welcome to my home in Midtown Atlanta. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, I'm Kevin Francis O'Gara. I'm a creative director at Holland McRae and founder of design studio Kevin Francis Design. I live in Midtown Atlanta in a 2-bedroom apartment right off of Peachtree Street. I call my style New Regency style because it's always been a mix of new and old, but always with a really fresh and updated feel. I grew up around a lot of antiques, and so I really have a deep appreciation for classic proportions, but I love mixing in contemporary elements and having that juxtaposition of new and old, modern and traditional. Welcome to my kitchen and dining area. When you walk into my apartment, the first thing you see is this little entry vignette. I put this Greek key vase on top of this old column that was actually my grandfather's. So I love seeing this as soon as I walk in. And over here at the island, there's not much you can do in an apartment kitchen, but adding these fabric globes over the existing pendants made the biggest difference in here in terms of just softening the light, making it more ambient and more moody, and making it feel a lot warmer. So I've got these leather bar stools, and I added removable wallpaper to this wall right here to just define this area and make it feel a little bit more special and personalized. My favorite places to find removable wallpaper are Decorator's Best, Temp Paper, Walls Need Love, and Spoonflower. I love this shell mirror so much. It's such a fun piece, and I definitely didn't want to go too coastal, so I like the juxtaposition of this landscape mural wallpaper that's kind of a toile with the mirror. I think it's a fun mix. In most apartments, the island is one of the first things you see when you walk in, so I do like to keep it as clear as possible, and it sort of acts as an entry table. So I've got this bowl where we keep our keys, and so it's really easy to just toss them in there, and so helpful to have a place for them to go as you leave and enter. And I really like having flowers and plants over here to just make it feel as fresh as possible as soon as you walk in. It's a good first impression. So I grew up in Atlanta, and I've always been interested in all types of design. But when I was a sophomore in high school, I started a blog called Dowswell and started really writing about home tours and design inspiration that I found and loved, and got more and more interested in home design. And that's how I really got into the design industry and started building my follower base and my style and honing my eye for design. And that led me into launching my design studio, which, and for my design studio, I provide design services, but also have a collection of area rugs, artwork, and candles. And my first area rug collection I launched going into college, and have since expanded into 4 other collections, one of which is in this room right now. Adding a dining area was such a huge plus for this apartment, having room for a table, and I love that I was able to use my mom's dining chairs in here. I grew up with these chairs, and I love the fabric. It's one of my favorite florals, so they're so special to me, and it makes me so happy to see them in here. And I definitely drew a lot of color palette inspiration from these chairs. So they really help to define the rest of the apartment, and they make such a nice moment right here in the middle. I paired these chairs with a more contemporary table with a lighter finish because they are more traditional, and I love that the lighter color just helps brighten this middle area and make it feel airier. Sometimes it's easier for me to have plants in the apartment than fresh flowers because they're a little bit less high maintenance. So I've definitely done a lot of planters with indoor plants to keep things green without having to change out the flowers every week. I love this more tropical plant in here because it's got so much height. And then I added these crystal candle holders because they're just so reflective and add a nice lighter, more modern touch to the table. The bar area was such a great bonus for this apartment, and I love to entertain, so this is definitely a centerpiece in the place. But I have got a great big tray here. I'm a big believer in trays. I think they make any surface look way more organized and put together. So when in doubt, put a tray under it. And then I've got a picture of my grandfather and some books on entertaining, some cookbooks. And this is just kind of our entertaining hub. My favorite cocktail is a Hugo Spritz. I love anything with elderflower liqueur. And a Hugo Spritz is just so easy, simple, and has such a sophisticated flavor profile. A Hugo Spritz is elderflower liqueur, Prosecco, or any sparkling wine, and a splash of sparkling water. Now we'll walk over to the living room. So when I looked at apartments, my roommate's my little sister, so we both had our own little lists of things that we wanted, but a big one for me was having easy access to take the dogs out, and being in the middle of Midtown where it's super walkable was important. I also was looking for a really great sized living space that hopefully included a dining area so that I could entertain, because that is like my favorite pastime. Most recently, I had a spring dinner party, and I really love entertaining most in the spring and summer when the weather's warm and the produce is fresh. And I tend to make a super easy recipe so that I'm not in the kitchen the whole time. So I made some pesto, chicken, green beans, and fresh cherry tomatoes over rice. Super simple and easy, and was just such a great way to kick off the season. Welcome to the living room with Leopold and Persephone. This is definitely my favorite space in the apartment. I spend the most time in here with my friends. It's full of olive green, lots of different color, pattern, and textures. And this is definitely a great example of how I like to mix different styles together. This piece is one of my favorites. It's the Arctander clam chair. This is a historic Danish design, and it's just such a cozy chair. And I've seen it in so many amazing home tours in Europe, and I'm so excited to have one in my apartment. I wanted to incorporate as many cozy textures as possible while keeping the space feeling pretty light and airy. So I've got a great mohair on my ottoman here, a linen on this mini chair, and a cream boucle on the long sofa against this wall. I styled this nook back here with a bar cart, but I just put books and decor on it because I've got a bar already in the dining area. And one of the biggest impacts that I made in this area was adding a darker green wallpaper. It's actually a faux grass cloth to this nook. It added so much depth and made the nook look so much more intentional and made all the decor over here just pop so much more. So that was a great way to just personalize this area. This portrait is pretty special to me. It's my mom when she was a child. So I love having it in here and being able to see it every day. So one of the challenges with this apartment, which I cannot complain about, is that the ceilings are fairly tall. So I needed something really high impact to put above the sofa. Sofa is pretty low profile and more contemporary. So I figured out a way to bring a lot of pattern to this wall without having to address the entire wall. I took hollow core doors from Home Depot and applied this Lee Joffa linen to them and made these 3 panels. Not only do they soften the space, but they add an architectural element and they really fill out this wall so nicely. And then I was able to layer artwork on top. This is actually a portrait of Leo when he was a puppy. And I love how hidden he is in the greenery. This was at a nature preserve that we used to walk at all the time. One of the keys to decorating in small spaces is having multifunctional pieces of furniture. So I really like using a piece of furniture under the TV that you can use for other purposes. Here I used this desk from Frontgate. It's a great way to hold the TV, but there's also so much depth because it's a desk. So I can stack books in front of it, make it more decorative, or move the books away and use it as a desk if I need to. So this shield above the TV I found at Antiques and Beyond here in Atlanta. It just caught my eye. It's such a fun piece, so sculptural, but I love that it feels like it has so much character and history. On the TV is one of my favorite movies called To Catch a Thief. It's an Alfred Hitchcock with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly, and it is one of my top 3 favorite movies. My ultimate goal for this area was to create a really cohesive color palette, because sometimes when you walk into an open floor plan like this in an apartment, it can feel a little overwhelming with so much that you can see all at once. So that's why I really stuck to a primarily green color palette and really tried to make it feel as inviting but calm as possible so that it really pulled you in once you walk in the door. I'm so excited to share this new rug design. This is my latest design for my studio, Kevin Francis Design, and it's a new construction for me as well. So I really designed it with this room in mind, but it's going to come in 4 other colorways. So I'm excited to share that soon. I think one of the keys to making your space feel customized and personalized is really addressing the walls. One of the big challenges in an apartment is you have these really long blank walls, and finding those high impact pieces that are going to define the space and make it feel like your decor was meant to be there, I think is so key. So definitely using removable wallpaper where you can, having some really larger pieces of art, and often you can do it yourself, which is fun, and you can do it with your friends. So there's so many ways to fill those walls in and make it feel like, you really considered every surface. One thing I always think about when looking at the furniture for a space is making sure I have a mixture of right angles and curved surfaces. So I really like to put a curved end table in an area where you're walking through, because it helps make it feel more open and less hard to get by. Just subconsciously even, it feels like easier to walk by a curved table. So this is the perfect piece to add here, where it's a little bit tighter, and I'm adding, kind of playing off of the curves on the sofa itself. Next, I'll take you into my bedroom. When it comes to decorating small spaces and especially rentals, I've had tons of experience. I decked out all of my dorm rooms, and I love finding creative ways to personalize a space. So when it came to this apartment, I knew I wanted to help define each area with removable wallpaper, with the fabric panels that I made for the living room, and definitely with lots of drapery and mirrors and artwork to really help define the architecture and make the space my own. Welcome to my bedroom. This space is my sanctuary, and it involves some of my favorite elements. I've got one of my original maize rug designs. This was my first collection that I ever made. And I have a lot of blue and white in here, which is the color combination that I always return to. The main attraction in here is the do-it-yourself canopy that I rigged up. This was an act of pure imagination. I took curtain tracks and clips and then had this drapery made at my workroom, and I love what it added to the space. I feel like this room really needed something big and soft, and this was the perfect way to add a lot of color and pattern without overwhelming the space and actually making it feel so much softer and more inviting. One of my favorite textures is burl wood. So I've got these burl wood side tables on either side of the bed. And then I really wanted something super tall for my lamps. I think one of the big mistakes that people can make with a king bed is not having big enough lamps, because you're dealing with a super big piece of furniture. So having these 40-inch lamps with these big pleated shades really helps balance the big bed. These plates are from Cherish. I really wanted like a super traditional touch in here, and they have butterflies and flowers on them and just are so pretty and special. So they were the perfect way to accent the wall on either side of my canopy without taking away from that fabric at all. This area is very special to me. I've got a portrait of my grandfather, who I never got to meet, but I would have called him Zeus. He was a doctor. He was a pediatrician here in Atlanta. And I just got it framed with this leaf framing, which I love so much. I added a chrome sconce above it and lots of coffee table books, and then an old dresser from my mom that I grew up with. So this space is functional, but it's really very sentimental as well. So this is actually the same wallpaper that was in my kitchen. I had some leftover, and it just makes such a big difference in a recessed nook like this to add something to the back of it. So I used it again in here, and I love that it's neutral and feels like it could go anywhere. Bedding is one of those things where I feel like I've made it once I've got nice linens on my bed. And these are all from Peacock Alley. So they're incredible. And when it came to bedding in here, my dogs sleep with me. So I wanted to be practical. So I went with a coverlet instead of a duvet cover for ease of washing and maintenance. And then I added this super soft alpaca throw to layer on the bed, because I do really believe in having as many layers on the bed as possible. So when we moved out of my childhood home, there are a bunch of these floor plans and landscape designs and renderings that I took with me. And a couple years ago, I got 4 of them framed. And so they're so special to me. And I love having them across from my bed because they're just so significant and such a touch point for me. You may not think to put a regular rug in your bathroom, but a wool rug is actually so durable and one of the best things that you can put as a really large bath mat. So I have one of the rugs from my Iconium collection based on Turkish rug motifs in here, and I just love how it elevates my bathroom and adds a more lived-in look. Now I'd love to take you to my sister's bedroom, so follow me. I think my biggest inspiration is always nature. As much as I push myself to explore other color palettes, I always gravitate back towards blues and greens because I just know I'll never get tired of them, and they're just that constant color in nature as well. But my favorite place to look at home tours is from European shelter magazines and publications like World of Interiors. I think the history and the depth of design that they have there is just unparalleled. Welcome to my sister's bedroom. She was the perfect roommate because she told me I can decorate her room however I wanted to. So I had a lot of fun making a space that reflected her and also felt really playful and young and sophisticated all at the same time. The color palette in here ended up being blue and white like my room, really because I found these great panels from Frontgate. Again, another great way to address a large wall above a bed with this triptych. And then I also worked with Pepper Home on these pillows and matching drapery, which really gave the space a custom look and a designer feel to have those things coordinate. Since this room is a little smaller, we went with a platform bed that is really below your line of sight, so it has a much lower visual impact when you walk in. And I used these round burl nightstands, which feel more decorative but have hidden storage, so they're very functional. Again, I really like to use larger table lamps on either side of a bed. So got these big glass lamps and then lots of layers of cream and white throughout all the bedding and textiles in this space. Giving a home soul is really making sure that your authentic self is reflected in the decor. One of the most important pieces in my home are pieces that are either from family members or that have a special memory attached to them, or that I found when I was out with my friends. I think as long as you have those touch points, your home is always going to be special and beautiful because it's meaningful. I love how airy and light her room feels, so my cloud rug design was perfect for this space because it feels like you're stepping into the sky. So it's super relaxing in here and really just like a tranquil sanctuary. Home to me is creating a space that is truly uplifting and reflects your present, but also your hopes for the future.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.